started with chapter 8, okay, me and Iram in the last class. And basically, as you know, that a cell is known as the fundamental and structural unit of life, correct? So the way we are going to learn in the classes is there is an inherent logic, a reason behind everything in science. If you understand that reason, then you don't have to memorize the answer. If you know what, see, this is a logical reason, and because of this, this is happening. So you may be able to apply the reason at multiple other places also. So the memorizing becomes less and less. So my motive is to make you less of memory cards and more of processors. So you have to process the information, not just store it to go and take it out in the exam. So cell, as we know, it's called the fundamental and structural unit of life. Now the question is, why fundamental and why structural? Why cell has been chosen to be called both fundamental and structural unit of life? We can also say something like there are many things inside a cell. So do you know that there are cell organelles, right, Aisha? You have studied this in class 9th, right?
Yes.
Cell has cell organelles like nucleus, mitochondria. We also give them names, like mitochondria is called the powerhouse of the cell. Ribosomes is the protein synthesizing factory of the cell. So my question is, why cell? Why not organelle? Why not proteins? Why not lipids or DNA is known as the fundamental and structural unit of life? So the reason is something is called fundamental when it starts from there. Now life, we are calling it a unit of life. Now life starts from cell. There is nothing smaller than a cell which is capable of independent existence. So basically, if you figure out what is a cell, cell is the smallest living system capable of independent existence and capable of reproducing to form more cells or offsprings. You understand, Aisha, these 2 points? These 2 things are not applicable or valid for other molecules or other cell organelles or anything which is smaller than cell. So that's why cell is called the fundamental and structural unit of life. Proteins are called the structural units of cell, right? Remember, protein makes the cell. Lot of things, yes. But when it comes to life, if you just take protein out of the cell, like what is paneer? Paneer is protein, right? Chicken, it's protein. You even get protein in form of powder, whey protein, casein protein. All these proteins can just come up as powder, but this does not mean that it is a living system or it is capable of exhibiting life. That only cell can do. So you understood these 2 reasons? Then we went on to understand prokaryote and eukaryote. As the word says pro, today I'll be taking this in detail. So prokaryote has old nucleus, or the nucleus is not well defined. That's why it's called prokaryote. It's a unicellular organism. Like bacteria is one example which belongs to kingdom Monera. Eukaryote is true. U means true. Wherever the word U comes, true. So probably this will be the first. This can be the first word that you can write in your terminology section. The word U will come multiple times in biology. Okay, and it means true. So eukaryote, and the word carry on or karyote is associated with nucleus. So wherever you see I have done this to a word, it means this has to go in the terminology section. Okay, Aisha? Yeah. Yes. So eukaryotic, for example, yeast is the simplest eukaryotic cell, and it is a unicellular organism. Yeast is the only unicellular fungi, only fungi which is unicellular. Okay, otherwise fungi are multicellular. Now then we discussed, are you back, Iram? Are you there?
Yes, sir, I'm back.
Yes, good. So would you like to take from here what we discussed about the history, Anton von Leeuwenhoek, Robert Brown? Just a recap. and cell theory?
Yes.
Yes.
So, Anton von Leeuwenhoek first observed a living cell.
Yes. And he observed that through his self-made microscope.
Microscope, yes.
Mm.
Then later on, Robert Brown, he discovered nucleus.
Yes.
And
And what was
and
cell
then
theory?
the cell theory was formulated by Schillen and Chua. They discovered plant tissues. No, they discovered different types of cells. Later on, this was
So
modified by Rudolf Virchow.
Scleden was a botanist, Schwann was
Yeah,
a
Schillen was
zoologist. So Scleden said the same thing for plants that Schwann said for animals, that all plants are formed from different type of cells, and Schwann said different type of animal cells are present. Okay, so basically this is the same thing. Yes, continue.
And then Rudolf Virchow, he modified the cell theory in the cell in 1855, that cells are formed from pre-existing cell, omnicellular, acellular. Then the final
Yes, so
cell
this is the
theory,
final theory.
that all living
Yeah.
organisms are composed of cells, and cells are formed from pre-existing cells.
Yes, but there was one more question that came to Iram's mind, and she asked that where did the first cell came from, which is a very, very brilliant question indeed. And this cell theory has no answer for, because cell theory starts from cell. When there was no cell, what was there? How did the first cell came up? That is not told by the cell theory. So I asked Iram, and now I'm asking Aisha, because if this question also came to your head, just hold on to your horses. I'll discuss about it later on, in the syllabus. So there is something called theory of abiogenesis in science, which tells that how was the first living cell? How did the first living cell came into existence? Because that is the $1,000,000 question, right? You can keep on saying that cells are formed from pre-existing cells, but there must be somewhere the cell started. So that is more complicated a theory, and it takes more time to understand. So for that, you first need to get through thorough concepts of cell. Okay, so just that answer is on hold. Yes, continue.
Then we discussed about different types of cell in human bodies. There is red blood cell, white blood cell, neuron, muscle cell. These have different shape, different size, and different functions. Then what is the most
But what is
common thing
common?
on common? They have a cell membrane, nucleus, nucleoid, genetic material, cytoplasm, cell organelles. The smallest cell is mycoplasma, and the largest cell is the egg of an ostrich. Whereas largest cell in a human is egg cell, and largest cell is nerve cell.
Longest.
Longest cell is a nerve cell.
Yes. And what is this? This
Length
is
of
something
neuron.
very, yes. So Aisha, let me explain you this figure. So we were discussing how long can a neuron be in our body. So you know that all the cell bodies of the neuron. So just going here, can you see the neuron here? This one? So
Yes.
this neuron has a cell body, dendrites, and a long axon. Now, in our body, the cell bodies are either in the brain or in the spinal cord for every neuron. There is no cell body which is like in our shoulder or in our arms or fingers or anywhere random in our body. So central nervous system has these cell bodies. So this is what I was trying to explain here, that the cell body is present in the spinal cord here, right? And the axon goes all the way long from the spinal cord to the tip of your finger. Okay, so basically it's not forming junctions in between. So it's not like from this point to this point there is one axon, then from this to this second and third. No, it's one single axon, but there are millions of separate axons which run as a bundle throughout your arm. Okay, so that's why axon is the longest cell. Okay, understand? Yes, continue, Iram.
Then we have different types of cell. There are two types of cell, prokaryotics and eukaryotics. Prokaryotic cells are basically bacterial cells. Um, they have cell wall surrounding cell membrane. They do not have definite
Yeah,
nucleus.
we'll come to that in detail today. So you just tell the example and then we can start.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bacteria. There is blue-green algae. Then the smallest cell is mycoplasma. Then PPLO.
Yes,
Pleuropneumonia.
pleuropneumonia-like organisms. They are also among the smallest cells along with mycoplasma. And one thing to mention here is for Aisha that remember blue-green algae is not an algae. The name has algae, but it is not an algae. It is a bacteria. It's a cyanobacteria. It's a bacteria which looks bluish green. Okay, Aisha? So that's one thing you have to know. There are many such things in biology. Have you heard of this one organism, silverfish?
Yes,
What is silverfish?
it's not a fish.
Exactly. Aisha got the hint. What is it? What it is? Yes, Aisha. Great.
It's an insect, I think.
Yes, it's an insect. It basically you can find it in your old books. So if anyone you have very old books in your home, sometimes you open your old book and a small tiny silver insect runs from that book. That's called silverfish. I don't know why it's called fish, though it's not a fish, and this is what the fishy part of biology comes in. Seahorse is not a horse, you know, at all.
Yes.
So just like that. Yeah. So remember that blue-green algae is not an algae because algae are simple plants. They have a chlorophyll, they can do photosynthesis, and they come under plants. Like they are the first plant, simplest plants to evolve. Okay, they come under the plant kingdom. Blue-green algae is cyanobacteria. It comes under Monera. Yes, continue. Eukaryotic cells, and then
Yeah, in eukaryotics, we have yeast, algae, body cells of human and animals, plant cells.
yes.
Um,
This I just
this one,
okay. So let me just tell you that this is not a part of this chapter, but it's very important to understand some concepts before we go to cells. So yes, quickly, Iram, what did we discuss here?
okay, so the first kingdom we have is Monera. It is unicellular and prokaryotic. Example, we have bacteria. Then Protista, it is unicellular, eukaryotic, Plasmodium, protozoa, amoeba. Then fungi, multicellular eukaryotic, example mushroom. Plantae, multicellular eukaryotic, rose plant, example is rose plants. And sorry,
Yeah.
animal.
I thought you're not speaking all of a sudden. Yeah, Animalia.
Animalia, we have multicellular, it is multicellular and eukaryotic, example cats, snails, earthworm.
Yes, we are animals. Then I gave a homework, which Iram, have you done the homework?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. To draw a neat and well-labeled diagram of prokaryotic versus eukaryotic cell. And in the last class, as a important part of both prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell, I started with the first organelle, not organelle, but that the envelope of the cell, which is called cell membrane. So Iram is going to take over and tell us more about cell membrane. Yes, Iram. So in every class, one of you will be the teacher for the first 5, 10, 15 minutes. Iram, you're there? Next class, it
Yes,
will be
yes.
Aisha. Yes, tell me.
So cell membrane, it's also called as plasma membrane. It is a vital structure present in every living cell. It is semi-permeable. It is mainly composed of lipids and protein. Um, it behaves like a dynamic fluid membrane.
Explain this.
Okay.
You can
It
use words
has
like, so I'm also preparing you for science presentations and talks. So in my class, you do not just prepare for exams. So you can use like whatever you can see in blue, whatever you can see in red, because you cannot use the cursor like me. So at the end, Iram has to explain things to Aisha, and I'll ask Aisha if she understood. Okay, Iram? Good, chalo.
Okay. Okay, so this model is the fluid mosaic model. It was discovered by, no, it was proposed by Singer and Nicholson in 1972.
Yes. Aisha, you can also ask questions, okay? Just imagine, suppose that Iram is the teacher. Don't let her go easy. Okay, Iram, continue. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, Aisha is up for it.
Okay, so
Pressures, no pressures. No pressures, okay? Relax. You got it.
just a minute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Aisha's thumbs up already gave Iram pressure.
Okay, ready. It
Yep.
has it has a peripheral protein on the top. It lies on the periphery. Then it has integral protein.
I'm sure Aisha has some questions.
So I'm not a good explainer.
No, that you will be by the end of this year. Don't worry. See, let me just quickly, I'll just take 30 seconds, okay, off the grid. I was very bad at writing answers. I always used to fancy biology. I love biology. I understand it. But whenever it comes to writing, if you give me a 5-mark question, I will feel like, bored to death. Why I have to explain you so much? Like I can speak. I was good in oral examinations, but written examination was one of my weaknesses. But if I do not score good in boards, then my future career in biology is at stake, no? Right? Because on merit basis, I cannot go to certain colleges and universities. So that's, and again, in boards, to get good marks, you have to write. So just like you think that you are not good in explaining, I used to think that I was not good in writing. Okay. But then with practice and with some very cheeky innovations. So like I said, when you start explaining, you started with there are peripheral proteins. And if I was Aisha, I would have just stopped you right there and asked, but what is a peripheral protein? So you have to begin with, so what you see in blue here, like, these round things are the head. So this is what I first explained you, right? This part, look here. So this is the structure of a lipid, okay, Iram? So now you see how I'm explaining again to you, okay? So you have to learn this, promise? You there, Iram?
Yes.
So I'll explain, just, and Asha, pay attention. So the fluid plasma membrane is called plasma membrane because the word plasma means fluidic, okay, fluid. Now this concept was given to explain that how membrane is so dynamic. Membrane is not like the walls of our house. It is not for just for protection. It is for protection, but along with protection, it is the only way for a cell to interact with the environment. A cell cannot shut itself close and live inside happily. It needs to exchange things with the environment. And that exchange can only happen if the outer membrane is intelligent. And by intelligent, I mean it knows what to exchange and how much to exchange, what thing to take in and what things to take to give out, So that's why the membrane is basically a lipid bilayer. It is formed majorly of lipids. So what you see here is a lipid molecule, and the head is actually called hydrophilic. What does the word philic means? Philic means loving or liking. Okay, Aisha, you would like to add this word to your dictionary. Philic and phobic. So hydrophobia is fear of water. It's a symptom in many neuro disorders and diseases. Hydrophobic part is the tail part of the lipid membrane. So lipid membrane has a head and it has two tails, one slightly shorter and the other slightly longer. Now this head part is called polar part. Polar is anything like for example, water molecule is a polar molecule, and this hydrophobic tail part is called non-polar. So from your chemistry knowledge, you must be knowing that non-polar solvents do not like polar solvents. They do not gel or mix well together. Water is polar. That's why the head always stays towards the outside. So you will see that the way they are arranged, the head is towards the top, because on this side of the cell is an environment, and on this side of the cell is cytoplasm. Both in the environment and in the cytoplasm there is water. Okay, cytoplasm is nothing but around 95% water, and if it is a bacteria living in a pond, outside also it's water. So the heads align themselves because they like water. Tails go towards inside because they dislike water. They are hydrophobic, and that's how the lipid bilayer structure comes up. In between the lipids, there are many proteins which are important for the function of the cell. Now I told you that many things cell has to take in and give out, right? So you will be studying, or I don't know if you have studied, there is something called active and passive transport happening between the environment and the cell. You know that active and passive transport. Diffusion is a passive transport where things just move with respect to concentration gradient. Remember diffusion? Have you read about it in chemistry?
Yes.
Or physics? Yes, very good. But certain things are active transport, where the cell decides whether to take it against the gradient or not. And for that, these protein channels help. So protein helps in multiple things for a cell. That's why there are multiple different kinds of protein. Peripheral proteins are those proteins, Aisha, that do not cross the whole membrane. They are not transcending from one end to the other. So they are just embedded in the wall, in the membrane. Okay. Whereas integral proteins are they are also in contact with the environment on one side and with the cytoplasm on other side. So they go through and through the cell membrane. Do you understand, Aisha?
Yes.
Yes. Now these two types of proteins are majorly present in the cell membrane, and the position of these proteins are not fixed. So they can change positions. This is what I'm trying to show here with this arrow. And this can only happen because this membrane is fluidic. So that's why it is explained through fluid mosaic model. And this model was proposed by Singer and Nicholson, about which Iram will tell you in detail. Yes, Iram, I just made your work easy. Come on. Now tell Aisha what is fluid mosaic model.
Okay. So fluid mosaic, it is the
It is the
it basically states the quasi-fluid nature of lipid molecules that allows in movement of proteins within the bilayer.
yes. And this property is called fluidity of the membrane. So every cell membrane, every organism cell membrane has a fluidity index. Okay. For example, you know that because of this fluid mosaic model and this fluid nature of the membrane, cells can actually change shapes. There are many cells which actively can change shape, protrude something out, and then take something in. For example, amoeba. You all must have read about amoeba, how it captures the food, right? So if this is an amoeba, yeah, what are these called? The protrusions. Yes, perfect. And why it is called pseudopodia? What does the word pseudo means? You never have to remember things in biology if you study it this way. The word pseudo is always related to false. There are many myths in society that are prevalent in the name of science. We call them pseudoscience. That's not science, that's myth. And podia is always related to appendages or legs. Okay, you understand? Arthropoda. The word arthro means, the word poda means poda, Aisha. In arthropoda, yes, the word poda means appendages. Okay, poda or podia. So at least you know the word poda or podia always comes for appendages or something that like on which the thing is based. Okay. Now arthropoda, the word arthro you have also heard somewhere. Any one of you wants to become a doctor? Iram or Aisha? I'm sure you must have told me, but many students tell me what they want to become, so forgive me if I have forgotten. Anyone who has decided that he or she she wants to become a doctor among you, or at least give a try?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, okay, cool. So what is the doctor who treats bone related issues called? When someone has bone related problems like pain in the joints, pain in the bones, then which department they go to in the hospital? Have you heard of orthopedic?
Yes,
Yes,
orthopedic.
yes.
Yes. And the word, have you heard of a disease called arthritis?
No.
No, never heard of arthritis. This is where old people starts having severe pain in their joints. Every joint, wherever they have joint, especially in the knees and the elbows, they start, like when they are standing up or sitting down, they have pain in their joints. That's called arthritis. The word itis is related to inflammation. Itis, I-T-I-S. Whatever you put in front of itis becomes the inflammation of that thing. If it is arthritis, the word arthro or arthra means joints. Arthropoda, joint appendages. Class 9th, you all must have studied, both of you. Remember arthropoda? Insects are called arthropoda because they have joint legs. Their legs look like if they are joined together, right? So arthropoda, arthritis. About itis, how many of you have heard of this term called hepatitis? It's a disease. Hepatitis?
Yes, I have.
You have? So can you tell me what do you think is hepatitis? Because you know now itis is inflammation. The word hepat is related to liver. So if I call that the person has hepatitis, what does it mean? Person has liver inflammation. That's hepatitis. Okay. Okay, Aisha and Neeram. So this is how you do not have to remember biology much. You just know what it means. You know what the cyto means, right? So if I ask you what is hepatocyte, can you tell me now quickly? Hepat or hepato means liver. So what is hepatocyte?
Liver cell division.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Hepatocyte is the cell of a liver. What is cardiomyocyte? Cell of the heart. Do you understand?
Yes.
Very good. So due to the fluid mosaic model, the amoeba as a single cell is able to show all these, able to throw the pseudopodia and then engulf the food material. Okay. Now in the end we discussed, yes, Aisha.
What is bilayer?
What is?
Bilayer.
Bilayer. Okay, what does the word bi means? Bisexual. What does the word bi means? Bilingual. Two. And what does the word layer means? Layer means? Layer means layer. Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. This is one layer. This is one layer. Oriented in opposite directions. So the plasma membrane become lipid bilayer because, sorry, I don't know why this happens. Layer. Okay. So this is one layer and this is one layer. This is one layer of lipid. Can you see? All the head, all the tails.
Yes.
This is another layer of lipid in complete opposite direction. So this becomes lipid bilayer. Clear? Good.
Yes.
If you have any doubt, get it clear. Do not keep any doubts in your mind for the exam. In the last we discussed, in the last class, why is fluid mosaic nature important? So the fluid nature of the membrane is important for functions like cell growth, otherwise the cell will not grow. Cell division, because to divide you have to pinch from the center and then two cells separate. Endocytosis, which is basically something you need to put inside the cell. So endocytosis, formation of cellular junctions, and secretion. So all these functions require the fluidic nature of the plasma membrane. Aisha, is it clear? Iram, good job, Iram. Well done. We all are on the same page.
So,
Can we start?
So what
Yes.
is
What is?
so what is cellular junctions?
Yes, cellular junctions. I gave you an example here. Let me again explain. So there are sometimes cell make connections, not sometimes, almost all the time in our body. Many cells make connections. Now these connections can be for different purposes and different functions. The most famous connection is between neurons. So you know that neurons have, so this is the axon of one neuron. It ends like this, let's say, and then the dendrite of another neuron, let me use another color, forms a connection with the first neuron. You know about this? Like this. So this is called a junction. They do not touch each other completely. They never touch each other. So if they never touch each other, then there will be an empty space in between, which is known as a synapse. Okay. But it's not like something empty. It's very, very dynamic space, because a lot of things get secreted from here and bind to this surface. They're called neurotransmitters. So a lot of crosstalk is happening here. They're talking through this junction. So that's called a cell-cell junction. The same cell-cell junction also plays an important role in our normal physiology, in the shape of organs. In the body, just because Iram has asked, let me tell you, whenever a cell comes in contact with another cell, it stops growing mostly. This property is called cell inhibition. Cell inhibition. Okay. It's called cell contact inhibition. So it's in short known as contact inhibition. So when two cells come in contact, which means that every space has been filled. So when we get a cut or a wound, let's say in the hand, then there is an open space, right? A wound is an open space. Agree, Iram and Asha?
Yes.
Yes. Now to heal that, let me make a wound here. So let's say in someone's hand, very bad with making hands, but let's blunder. Okay, I'll not delete it now, otherwise everything will be deleted. So if someone's hand got a cut, let's say a wound, so this area got open, right? Blood is flowing. After some time it clots, blood flow stops, and then the skin which was lost from that wound comes back, regenerates back. Yes or no?
Yes.
But it always comes back in the same, like whatever was lost, only that comes back, and then healing stops. How do cells know that, okay, we have healed, we have to stop now? Because the moment all this gap will be filled, all the cells will come in contact with each other again, right? And there will be contact inhibition coming into picture. That is also a cell-cell junction property. You understood, Iram?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. In cancer, cancer is a very, very interesting biological thing where this contact inhibition property among cells is lost. That is one thing that happens, that goes wrong, along with many other things. Cells no longer realize that they are in contact, so they have to stop growing, and they keep growing and dividing to such a level that they come out of the layer making a tumor. That's why in cancer there are tumor formations. Understood? So this cellular junction is affected. Yes, very good. So now let's start with today's class, and in today's class I will be starting with prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell in detail. Can you see this diagram, both of you? I've taken this from the science notes org. It's the source. It's good to mention the source because we're actually using their source. Okay. Now The word pro, as you already know, in the carry-on, it means primitive or old nucleus. Okay. And the word U means true, carry-on means nucleus. So this is prokaryote. Now look, can you see any nucleus here? So there is cytoplasm. Okay. Cytoplasm is not, it's mentioned. So cytoplasm is common. Okay. It is there in both because that is the fluid of the cell. But do you see a nucleus in prokaryote? No, there is no nuclear envelope in a prokaryote cell, in a bacteria for that matter. But there is something, and let me take another color, some light color, probably. Let's take visible. Let me take yellow. So you see this thread-like thing, a long thread-like thing.
Yes.
Every prokaryote has just one single DNA thread as the genetic material. Apart from this genetic material, it can also have additional DNA molecules which will not be long and linear. They will be circular. Can you see this one here, which is written as plasmid? So plasmid is an extra piece of DNA which is present in bacteria. Okay, prokaryotes have this apart from their own genetic material. Now, and this is not just floating around in the cytoplasm. It is present around a dense region. So the region near the DNA in prokaryotes, which I am marking here with yellow dots. I hope it's visible to you, both of you. There is a dense region which is denser than the rest of the cytoplasm. Okay, and this region is called nucleoid. Okay, this dense region is called nucleoid. Is it clear? So there are some proteins that actually help and protect the DNA. And then there is a cell wall which is missing from eukaryote. So eukaryotes may or may not have a cell wall. It's not true that all eukaryotes will have cell wall or all eukaryotes will not have cell wall. That can depend. For example, plants have cell wall. And now because we have come to cell wall, let me also write this thing down. This is for entrance. Cell wall in biology are of different kinds. So it is present in kingdom Monera in bacteria. But a bacterial cell wall is made up of peptidoglycan. Okay, this is the major component. Understood? Cell wall is also present in fungi. You know that? Okay. In fungi, the cell wall is made up of chitin. These are some shorthand notes for your entrance. Okay. Various different cell walls in biology. Cell wall is also present in plants. You know that? Now tell me what makes plant cell wall? This is very common. And this is related to one another thing. Aisham, can humans survive on grass and leaves like goats and cattle and buffaloes? If I start eating grass or leaves, will I survive? Yes or no?
No.
No, why? Leaves have carbohydrate, right? There are two types of carbohydrates. One is called cellulose and one is called starch. We can digest starch, but we cannot digest cellulose. Whereas the plant cell wall is made up of cellulose. So if every cell of a plant is made up of cellulose, then basically the cell starts with cellulose. Okay, so plants have a cellulosic cell wall. So just remember these three things. Bacterial cell wall is made up of peptidoglycan, fungi, chitin, and plants cellulose. And this chitin also comes at one more place in biology. You know where does chitin comes?
So what is chitin?
Yes, I'm telling you. Are you afraid of insects?
Yes.
Ever all the insects?
No, sir.
Yes.
Only cockroach.
You are afraid of cockroach?
Yes.
I think, but you know, the reason we are afraid of cockroach is not because you know, we know what it can do and what it cannot do. What we do not know, where it will be the next second. You know, fear is associated with not being able to understand. So if you see a lizard on the wall, probably you will not be that afraid, right? But next moment,
So
if the
will
lizard
we?
is not, you will be. The lizard is far away from you, so you probably will not be that much afraid. Like, you know, you will not panic. So you can see that lizard on the wall, and the lizard can see you. So it's like a mutual connection. You know that you will not be that afraid. So you turned around, then you turned back, and the lizard is not there. Now probably you'll panic, right?
Yes.
Where is it? So that's the same thing with insects. But any insect that you have touched is how I explain chitin. Any ants, bees, cockroach, any good insect. Spider is not good, but anything.
So they're made up of chitin or they're itself chitin?
Their egg. So insects have an exoskeleton. If you touch insects, they are very crispy. You know,
Yes, yes.
they're all the insects are very crispy. You can if you're not afraid of ants, you can touch an ant, a big ant, and you will see that it's very crispy. It's there. They have an exoskeleton. Now, what does the word exo means? Exo. Endo and exo. Exo means outside. Endo means inside in biology, always. Endoscopy. Doctors do endoscopy. They put a pipe through nose or mouth and look at the inner organ, like the stomach and things for ulcers. That's called endoscopy. Okay. So exo means outside. Skeleton means they have a skeleton which is outside. Humans have endoskeleton. Our skeleton is inside, made up of bones. The exoskeleton of insects is made up of chitin. The same thing with which the cell wall of fungi is made up of. So chitin is a biological biopolymer. Okay, it's a biochemical thing. What is our hair made up of?
Protein.
Hair. Yes, right. Chitin is also a protein. What is that protein which is present in our hair? I think that is very common. All of us know it. It's called keratin, right? Keratin. Yes. The same keratin also makes our nails. Okay. So these are certain things just you should know, because they can be, there is no good or best way to learn this. So just know that fungi, chitin is associated with insects also, because they have an exoskeleton of chitin, and fungi have a cell wall of chitin. Okay. Now coming back to prokaryotic versus eukaryotic. So whenever I start a topic, I will also tell you things that are not from the topic, but you should know for your entrance boards. Now coming back, do you see these hair-like fine structures, which are known as villi here? Can you see these?
Yes.
You know, sometimes they are also referred to as cilia. You will read the word called cilia. Okay. So basically, they are small hair-like structures that help in the movement, because this one single cell is also one single organism. So it has to do everything that an organism does: move, protect itself, find food, eat food, remove waste, metabolize, respiration, everything. Okay. So cilia helps in minor movements, like probably most of the time movement of the food towards the mouthpiece, like in case of paramecium. Okay. But apart from these small hair-like structures, prokaryotes also have flagella. I'm first explaining you everything. I'll make you write everything. Don't worry about it. So flagella, they have made 3 here, but normally in a cell there are 1 or 2 flagella in a prokaryotic cell. Now they are longer structures, and they just towards where they are connected to the membrane, they are a little crooked, okay, a little bent, because when you basically, it's a mechanical way, you propel this part and this part starts moving. You understand? So this flagella will start moving like this. You understand? Cell can control it from the inside. And this flagella helps in the motion of the bacteria. Understood, everyone? There's a difference between movements and motion. In class 11th, I'll tell you multiple times we will use this concept, locomotion and movement. Locomotion is when an organism moves from one physical place to another physical place in search of something, or to protect itself from something. Movement is happening every time, in every single cell. Movement can be of the molecules, movement can be of the blood. So even when you are standing still, in a national anthem position, there are lots of movements happening in your body, but you are not locomoting. Understood? Clear the difference? Iram and Aisha?
Yes.
Yes. So, and then ribosome. Another common thing is ribosome. So ribosome, just like cytoplasm and cell membrane, is common whether it is a prokaryotic cell or a eukaryotic cell. Ribosomes, write down, they are special. They are non-membranous organelles. Okay, they do not have a membrane. That's why they are present in eukaryote and prokaryote both. Is it clear?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Anything which has a membrane, any organelle, is not present in a prokaryote, because prokaryote just has one membrane, which is the plasma membrane, and one cell wall over it. Inside the cytoplasm, in the cytoplasm, there is no membrane, neither for the nucleus nor for any organelle. Okay. Now coming to eukaryotic cell has all the membranous organelles. Okay. For example, endoplasmic reticulum. So it can be smooth or it can be rough. Now, you know why it is rough? Can you see here? There are dots here. It is called rough because on rough endoplasmic reticulum, there are ribosomes attached. This was a neat question. So ribosomes were attached to the RER membrane. That is what makes it rough in appearance. Smooth does not have ribosomes. Now, what is a ribosome? Let me tell you some interesting thing that we have to learn. What does ribosome do? Class 9th, just the basic function of ribosome.
Synthesize food.
Perfect. It is called the protein synthesis factory of the cell. Now, if ribosomes are attached to the endoplasmic reticulum, rough endoplasmic reticulum, then what will be the function of RER? It must be helping in synthesis of proteins, right?
Yes.
Logically, right? Because it has ribosomes attached to it. Ribosomes are also free in the cytoplasm, like yes.
Yeah, one question. You said
Yes.
ribosomes are attached to the rough endoplasmic reticulum, but ribosome itself can also do it, right? They can also synthesize protein.
Yes, right. But
Why to attach?
rough endoplasmic reticulum actually can harbor a lot of, it's like you make a specialized hub. For example, it's just like you can find a good engineer anywhere, right? But if you go to a dedicated engineering company, you will find engineers, all of them there, right? You can find a good doctor anywhere, but if you go to a multi-speciality hospital, the chances of you finding most of the good doctors is there because they are concentrated under one in one region, right? And that one specific region can help the cell in better protein synthesis and in whenever it is required in more amount. You understand? So instead of being scattered, they are also scattered in the cytoplasm. You are correct, because in prokaryote they have no other option than to be scattered around. They are also scattered in eukaryotic cells, but it's good to be present together at one niche where all type of protein labeling and these things can happen. You understand? So it's just like a specialized area. And eukaryotic cell is more specialized than a prokaryotic cell. That's why it has all these things. Then it has mitochondria. Mitochondria is known as the
powerhouse of the cell.
why it is called the powerhouse of the cell? Yes. Anyone is saying so? You have a question, Aisha?
Sir, what is endoplasmic reticulum?
Yeah, we'll come to that. So for now, just know that endoplasmic reticulum is a network. It's a network of membranes, and they have just shown you. So it is a wrong representation. Endoplasmic reticulum is the only organelle which touches the nuclear membrane on one side and is connected to the cell membrane on the other side in a eukaryotic cell. So dense network compassing the whole cell. You understand, everyone?
Yes.
So we'll come to endoplasmic reticulum in detail, but just know that there are two types of them. So I'm just first briefing you with cell in general. Okay. Now coming to mitochondria, it's called powerhouse of the cell. My question is, why it's called powerhouse of the cell?
Because there are all the cellular activities going on, such as ATP.
You are right when you use the word ATP, but cellular activities, mitochondria, how many of, so do both of you know that why mitochondria is a special organelle? Mitochondria itself is double membranous, right? Mitochondria is like this. They have an outer membrane, then they have an inner membrane, which forms cristae. And that inner membrane, let me first complete this inner membrane, is heavily folded like this. Now, if I ask you, which of the membrane, outer membrane or inner membrane, is bigger?
Inner.
Of course, yes. It is inside does not mean it's smaller. The bigger membrane is inside, that's why it's folded. If you have to keep something big into something small, you have to fold it, no? Simply. But folding, what does folding helps in? When you fold anything, what does it do? It increases the surface area of contact, right?
Yes.
For that matter, let me tell you one interesting fact. Anything you do to a plane surface, anything, it will increase the surface area of that surface. So if you see wall, right? The wall looks pretty plain, right? Now, if I start scratching it, basically I'm increasing the surface area. You know why? Because now there is a dent in the wall. So this was a wall, okay? Look here, some physics. Because of my scratching, the wall became like this, right? You understand?
Yes.
And what is the shortest distance in mathematics you have studied between 2 points?
Displacement.
A straight line. So from this point to this point, what is the shortest distance possible? A straight line, right? Which the wall was already. Whatever you do to a wall, whether you paste something on it or you remove some bit of it, you are just increasing the surface area, right? Because you are making it longer, more area is now, more surface is present. Do you understand or not? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Now mitochondria is a special organelle because it has its own DNA. Okay, so write down. Mitochondria has its own DNA, which contains some genes that code for mitochondrial proteins. There are some proteins that are only present in the mitochondria and are produced only by the mitochondria. Now, connecting it to something interesting again on a cellular level, you know, all the mitochondria that we have in our body, that you have, only comes from mothers. Yes, because fathers only contribute sperm, right? And sperm, where is the mitochondria in a sperm? Any idea? In a sperm cell, the mitochondria is all lined up in the neck region, which does not enters the ovum. So the mitochondria that a baby inherits, it comes from the mother. So it is always maternally inherited. Okay, interesting.
Yes.
If you find it interesting, just write it. It was about mitochondria. It is a neat question. So what I'm discussing with you is not some random gyan. It is all what is asked. Okay, and there, as I said, there is no right time to read those facts or understand those facts. If you are learning about mitochondria, just know these things, that it has its own DNA and it can only be maternally inherited. So mothers have mitochondria in the ovum because ovum is a cell, full-fledged cell, and that cell becomes zygote and becomes embryo. So the zygote has the same mitochondria that ovum had. Then the embryo will have the same mitochondria that zygote had. And mitochondria, just like our nucleus, can divide and replicate. So write down, it has its own DNA. It is only maternally inherited. And just give me 1 second. Okay, sorry people, I'm back. Am I visible and audible?
Yes.
Yeah. So I was saying that mitochondria, write down these 3 facts, points about this. It is only maternally inherited. It has its own DNA, and it can replicate similar to the nucleus. Okay. Now centriole. What is centriole? Again, 9th class, you have studied something about it, some basics to brush up. Aisha, what is centriole? Any idea?
No, sir.
No? Okay.
So this
Now you
is
will
only
say.
found in animal cell, right? Animal cell.
Okay, we'll come to that. You're correct, but let me first give a hint to both of you. I'll not say that you are wrong without teaching you what is right. When the cell divides, have you seen that before the cell pinches like this, because from here it will divide, everything in metaphase is arranged. All the chromosomes get arranged at the center, right? And then something like this comes from one side and pulls half of the chromosome to one cell, and something pulls half the chromosome to other side, right? You know, this is called karyokinesis. Cell division chapter. Karyokinesis means nucleus division. Karyo means nucleus, kinesis means division. So first karyokinesis happens, then the cell divides. So cytokinesis. Okay. Now centriole helps. So these things which are there, these are called spindles. What are they called? Spindle fibers. and they are very important for the cell division, like to get equal amount of DNA to each side, and then the cell divides from the center. So if centriole is not there, the cell will not divide. Is it clear, people? Yes or no? So centrioles give rise to spindle fibers. Okay. Yes.
Yes,
No?
sir.
Good. Now coming to Golgi apparatus, which is also again, so mitochondria has membrane, endoplasmic reticulum is itself a membrane. Okay. Ribosomes do not have membrane. Golgi has membrane. Okay. Now Golgi apparatus actually is associated with lipid synthesis. Okay. ER with ribosomes associated with protein synthesis. Golgi associated with lipid synthesis. Okay. Now eukaryotic cells have a nucleus. Again, it's double membranous. So both mitochondria and nucleus have two membranes. So they are dual membranous, right? They have two membranes. Mitochondria also has two membranes. Inside the nucleus, there is a dense region that's called nucleolus. Okay. It's different from nucleoid. Nucleoid is a dense region in the cytoplasm. This has been asked. So nucleoid is a denser region in the cytoplasm which protects the single DNA in the prokaryote, whereas nucleolus is a dense region inside the nucleus where the genetic material is present together. And in humans or in eukaryotes, there can be multiple chromosomes and multiple DNA threads. How many chromosomes do we have in our body? Any idea?
46.
Exactly.
23
So
pairs.
basically 23 pairs. So basically it means that we have 46 threads packed together in our cells. Okay. So is prokaryotic versus eukaryotic clear to you? I'll dictate it, but is this clear?
Yes.
So if a question comes now, 3 marker, 4 marker, does not matter how many marker, that differentiate between prokaryote and eukaryote, you have more than enough points to write, right?
Yes.
Understood? Very good. Now in eukaryote, the another thing that is asked in exams, and I've seen it very much, is between the difference between anything you want to add, Iram, because you did the homework for eukaryote and prokaryote. Anything you want to add from your diagram which is missing or which I missed? Yes, no?
I'll see.
Okay, let me know. So prokaryote, eukaryote is done. Now in eukaryotes, there are two types of eukaryotes. Okay. A eukaryote can be a plant cell or a eukaryote can be a animal cell. A eukaryote can also be a fungi cell, but mostly they ask you the difference between plant and animalia because these are the most evolved kingdoms. Now let's see what is the difference between a plant and an animal cell. So now anyone would like to lead from here? Iram. This you have already done in your junior classes. I will just tell you some in-depth things for your entrance. But what do you know already? Tell me. One thing is, which of course you are going to say, I know, plant has a big central vacuole, right? So they have marked vacuole here. They should have marked here because this is the big central vacuole. Right? It's like they have a big bag in the center of the room. Okay. Now, as I told you, everything has a logic and reasoning. Why do you think plant cells have vacuoles, but animal cells have very small, these vacuoles? They do not have a big, large central vacuole. It's not true that animal cells do not have vacuoles. Animal cells have vacuoles. You know what are vacuoles? They are empty bags in which you can store something useful or useless, whatever you want. So why do you think plants have a big central vacuole? Aisha, what is your guess? What is your idea logically? Let me give you a hint. What is the one activity that our cells can do on a regular basis, like every minute, every hour, but plant cells cannot do that effectively? Do plants have a excretory system like animals? No, right? We animals can multiple times a day excrete waste through multiple ways. We are breathing out CO2, which is produced inside the cell. Even the toxic substances which are produced, they are sent to the blood, they go to the kidney filters it, makes urine, and we can just dump the urine multiple times a day. So we can get rid of our waste more effectively, whereas a plant cannot do that. Plants do not urinate. Now, a plant has a big central vacuole mostly because throughout the life, whatever it is making which does not need, like something which is harmful or toxic or is a waste, it keeps depositing that in the vacuole, and that vacuole is enough for one plant's life. Okay, you understand? Sometimes they also store other things in the vacuole apart from the waste. It could be a useful thing as well. Depends on what tissue it is of the plant. Is it clear? So they need to store more. That's why they have a big central vacuole. And because of this big central vacuole, the nucleus shifts towards periphery. Okay, nucleus is peripheral. So this is a board question. Why is nucleus peripheral in plants? Because they have a central big central vacuole. So there's no space technically. So the nucleus have to go towards the peripheral. Periphery means towards the edge, the boundary. Make sense?
Yes.
Hiram. Whereas in animal cells, there is a central nucleus. Okay, so there is a central nucleus because there is no large central vacuole. Clear? Now,
Yes.
talking about the size, plant cells can be bigger, but it's not like all plant cells are this big. Now, mostly they are bigger than animal cells. Okay. Another reason, one reason is that they have a lot of space dedicated to just store waste. So they need to be bigger to do other things. Okay. Animal cells are typically round or irregular in shape. Like look at other WBCs of our body, they can go and make any shape. Whereas plant cell typically has a fixed rigid shape, rectangular or cubic, but they have a rigid shape. Can you guess the reason for plants having a rigid shape of the cell and animals being squishy, whooshy, flexible? The one that we just studied above is one of the reasons. What does plant cells have that animal cells do not have?
Cell wall.
Perfect. And what is cell wall? What is the difference between cell wall and cell membrane?
Rigid. Cell wall is rigid.
Cell wall is rigid. You are correct. Cell membrane is fluidic. It can be explained through fluid mosaic model because cell membrane is important. Apart from protection, also plays a role in interaction. Cell wall has just one role: protect. Cell wall is like the helmet. Okay, so if you think that your skin, your skull is cell membrane, okay, the skin layer is cell membrane. So anything that touches this, you can feel it, right? It is to perceive heat, cold, to know things, pain, etc. But if you put a helmet over your head, so that additional protective part is the cell wall. And because of the presence of cell wall, plant cells become more rigid than animal cells. Is it clear? So they do not have multiple shapes of their cell. Like above, when I started discussing cells here, yes, we discussed different type of cells in human body, and we see all different types of shapes. This is only possible because there is no cell wall. Is it clear? In a plant, it's not possible because they have a cell wall. Now, why do you think plant cell have a cell wall and animal cells do not have a cell wall?
Because cell wall won't allow the cell growth or division, right?
No. So plants then to like plants should never grow, but it is ulta. Plants keeps growing throughout their life, right? You put a plant, a mango tree. The mango tree will keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and the canopy will just spread. Yes or no?
Yes.
The division part is taken care by the membrane. Tell me, what is the purpose of a wall? What is the purpose of your houses? Why do you have walls in your houses?
To protect
from
outside people.
Sorry, what? Outer? What did you say? ATP? Sorry, I could not hear it completely.
Outside people.
Outside people. I thought outer ATP. I'm like, what? Okay, good. Yes. Yeah. So it's outer people. You mean to say the environment, not just people. Your walls also protect you from stray dogs, wild animals. They also protect you from wind. They also protect you from something that dust, for that matter. So, and the walls of the house has to be rigid, right? Because they have to protect. Make sense?
Yes.
Now, it's related to protection only. Animals. Now, what are the ways to protect in nature? If an organism wants to protect itself, if Iram wants to protect herself, like I want to teach Iram self-defense. What are the 2 ways to defend yourself, Iram? There are only 2 ways. Fight or flight. Stay there, fight, bear the consequences, or run away and dodge the consequences, right? These are the only 2 ways to protect yourself from danger in nature, right? Every organism, every animal follows these 2 things only. Yes or no?
Yes.
Animals can run, they can run away. That's why in evolution they do not need a cell wall, because lack of cell wall gives them more flexibility. They can have different types of cells in their system to do different functions, and whenever there is a like any kind of a threat, they can just run away from there. Okay. Whereas, yes, Iram, are you like fascinated by this? You never thought like this?
Yes.
Yes. Whereas plants cannot run. So when a danger comes, plant has to stay there, bear the consequences. So if you have to stay there and bear the consequences, you better hold a shield. If you run away, throw the shield, run away. So plants have cell wall because to protect themselves from outside damage, any damage, whether it's animal feeding, whether any damage that can just kill the cell wall helps a lot. The same thing is with bacteria. Few bacteria are motile, okay, not all. And bacteria in its immediate environment depends on cell wall, okay, for protection. And when we have to kill bacteria through antibiotics, we target the cell wall. How does antibiotics work? You know that antibiotics kill bacteria? antibacterials, antibiotics. You know how do they work? Most of the antibiotics, how do? Oh, I think it's gone. Am I audible?
Yes, it's audible.
Yeah. So the earphone lost the charge. Anyways, so you know how do we kill most of the bacteria? It's easy. Don't do anything. Just send a chemical that goes into the cell wall and makes a hole in it and does not allow it to repair. So just by making a hole in the bacterial cell wall and not allowing it to repair, we are killing the bacteria. Because the moment bacteria cannot protect itself from outside environment, whatever you give to the bacteria, a toxin, hot environment, fluid, the bacteria will be susceptible to that and get killed. So you just have to make a hole in the shield. You understood? Everyone, both of you?
Yes.
Yes.
That's why plant cells have cell wall and animal cells do not have cell walls. And that's why, due to the presence of cell wall, plant cells have limited shapes and sizes, and most of the time they are rectangular or cubic, but animal cells have no limitations in the shape and the sizes and the functions. From WBC to neurons to muscles, muscles are long, WBCs have no shape, RBCs are biconcave, neurons are like long ropes. We have all sorts of cells. Okay, is this point clear? Easy, right? No need to remember, you just understand.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Now let's start writing certain things. Okay, before that, let me also go to these two things. Lysosome. Lysosome are present in both. Okay, so this is something common. Okay. Now lysosome is called, you know what it is called?
Suicidal bag.
Yes. Why do you think a cell needs a suicidal bag? Cell might not feel good with life and think that, you know, there's no purpose. Let me just go. No, that's not how it works.
It's basically for waste disposal, right?
One, yes, but to dispose of waste, you know, you can just throw that waste in the vacuole, also. In the vacuole, right? Just put it in the vacuole, store it. But some wastes are harmful. That wastes get stored in lysosome, and over the time, these harmful enzymes, which are, if they come out, they will degrade the whole cell only. They are stored in lysosomes and they act. Then they serve the purpose of suicidal bags. Now, if it is for waste management, why lysosomes are present in animal cells? Animal cells can take care of their waste very easily, right? I just told you. Logic. Lysosomes are present in both. So waste disposal cannot be the only function, because animal cells are anyway efficient in waste disposal, right? If nothing, they can just put the waste in the blood. Blood will take it to the kidneys. Kidneys will filter out and put it in urine. Yes? We have blood supply everywhere in the body. Every cell of our body basically takes oxygen from the blood, from the RBCs. Yes or no? You're understanding
Yes.
the story? Our body is a world. You know, even a cell is a world in itself. It has its rules and principles by which it works. So I am asking, why do you think lysosomes are there? What is the purpose? So the purpose is, many a times when you get an infection, anyone who has got any infection recently? Hopefully not COVID. I hope none of you have got COVID, right? Any one of you have got COVID and recovered? You got COVID, Aisha?
Yes.
And you recovered? Iram, you never got COVID, or you got COVID?
No.
Okay. So whenever our body gets infected, you know, there is a very interesting behavior shown by the cells. So if, let's say, a virus, I'm talking about an animal cell. So a virus came and infected this cell. Now this cell has multiple cells in the vicinity. So there are many cells in the vicinity, but virus will start from somewhere, no? So it entered some cells. The moment the viral load becomes so much in the cell and the cell recognizes that now I cannot survive, then what it does is, to help others, it degrades, it activates its lysosomes and degrade itself along with whatever pathogen is inside it. This is the cell's body's way to try to overcome infection in the early stages. So in the early stages, when we have infection and when our body is fighting with it, our own cells also die using these lysosomes. You understand? Aisha, Neeram?
So,
Yes.
so the entire cell dies.
Yes. So if the lysosome opens and bursts, it has hydrolytic enzymes. Write down. They are called suicidal bags of the cell because they have strong lytic enzymes. The word lytic means which breaks down. Strong lytic or digesting enzymes.
So this only happens when a virus attacks the body.
Mostly it happens, normally it should only happen when you are infected. If it starts happening without a reason, imagine the catastrophe our body will go. And there are certain rare disorders in which lysosomes are not regulated properly. Our own cells start dying without a reason. You know, and in that case, the person suffers a lot because it's making cells and the cells are dying on its own without an infection. So muscles will just
All the cells in the body dies, then the person will also die, right?
Sorry? Yes, the person. You have to kill enough cells. Whenever have you, let me take an example. What should I take as an example? Every time, whenever there is any infection, or every time when there is any wound, there are many cells in the body that die. Every time when you are on medications, there are many cells in your body that die because they cannot tolerate that medicine. But death does not come when cells die. Death is when enough cells die to make an organ not work properly. Okay. So we have trillions of cells and we are losing cells every day. Every day, many cells die. Every day in our body, our RBCs are dying. Do you know that RBC have a lifespan of only 120 days? RBCs. They only live for 120 days, which is how many months? 4. Around 4 months. So they stay in our body for 4 months and then they die. Then new RBCs are formed. It's not like the RBC that we formed in the bachpan is still there in our body. No. That's why it's a good idea that if you are healthy and if you can make enough blood, it's better to keep donating blood. Because anyways, your RBCs are dying and you are making new ones. So better donate it, right? You will make new ones. And that blood can save someone's life. So blood donation is always encouraged if you are healthy, not diseased, and your blood does not have a contamination or infection, right? Do you know that RBCs are eukaryotic cells, but they do not have nucleus? They lack nucleus when, as a cell, it is a special cell in the body. It lacks nucleus when it is mature. RBCs do have nucleus when they are forming, but when they get mature, they do not have nucleus. The nucleus is just gone, dead. So they are nucleus-less cells. So typically, if you take someone's RBC, you will never be able to tell whose RBC is this because there is no genetic material inside. Interesting, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Now the question is, why? This is science. Why RBCs do not have nucleus? And the answer is also very interesting, and it's associated with what it does as a cell. So what is the function of RBC? Tell me. You know it from your junior classes. What does RBC?
Provides red pigment to the blood.
Yeah, RBC has the red pigment on its surface called hemoglobin, right? Hemoglobin is that red pigment which is on the surface of RBC that gives blood the red color. That's true. But what is the function of RBC?
Exchange of gases.
It carries.
Yes. Carrying. Who was saying carrying completely?
It carries oxygen.
Perfect. It carries oxygen. And what is oxygen required for?
Respiration.
Perfect. Respiration. And what is respiration?
Taking in oxygen and giving out carbon dioxide.
That is breathing. I just breathe in and breathe out. But what is respiration? Is respiration and breathing same thing? Then let me tell you, bacteria also respire. Plants also respire. So breathing is the physical physical act of taking in oxygen and giving out carbon dioxide. You are correct. Respiration is a cellular process. That oxygen goes inside each and every cell right here in the cytoplasm. That oxygen reaches the cytoplasm. There is glucose already waiting for it inside the cytoplasm. And we use oxygen to burn glucose in the cell to produce energy. We call it oxidation, the process of oxidation. In your chemistry classes, have you studied combustion? Combustion reaction?
Yes.
You must have studied types of reaction, right? Combustion reaction is one type. What is combustion reaction? I'm just associating it with biology here. Burning anything in the presence of oxygen is called combustion, right? Yes. Here also, we are burning glucose in the presence of oxygen, but this burning is not like fire. This burning is at a controlled temperature in a controlled environment. So that's called respiration. You break down glucose in the presence of oxygen. And this is what oxygen is required for in each cell. And RBCs carry that oxygen. Now, let me give you a very real life scenario. So Aisha likes some specific mithai. Okay, Aisha, what is the mithai that you like?
Sir, gulab jamun.
Gulab jamun. Aisha likes gulab jamun a lot. And I am sending gulab jamun to Aisha. And if I am sending it via Iram, okay, and Iram also likes gulab jamun, what is the probability that this gulab jamun will reach Aisha?
She will eat it.
Of course. She started laughing already. She's like, I got it. The moment it comes to me, it's not going to go to Aisha because I also like gulab jamun. The same concept applies here. All the cells of our body need oxygen to respire. And the one cell that is transferring, that is carrying that oxygen, the one cell that has this duty that Iram had is RBC. And if RBC also starts utilizing oxygen, do you think that ever the oxygen will reach any other cell?
No.
No. That's why RBCs never utilize oxygen. They never produce energy. They have reserved energy, limited energy reserve protein and everything in the cell already. When they finish all that reserve, they die after 120 days. That's why their life is limited. You understood the logic? They have everything filled inside without a nucleus. No nucleus, no protein synthesis, no energy expenditure, nothing. So you do not rely on all the oxygen that you are carrying. Otherwise, RBCs will end up using all the oxygen after all that bhagdauड़ that they do in our body. So in the body, RBC is constantly circulating, moving from here to there, kidney to heart, heart to lung, lung to liver. And if it starts utilizing oxygen, then others will be deficient of oxygen. So that's the logic behind RBC not being actively, respiring and nucleus having cell having a nucleus. Understood? Makes sense? Yes. I hope you're also noting these things down. These are the fundamentals. After cell and cell division, when I will go to morphology and anatomy,
all these concepts we are going to use there. These are your foundation. So that's why I spend more time in foundation so that things become easier afterwards. Is this clear? The suicidal bag thing is clear also. Vacuole is also clear. Now,
Sir,
yes, please.
in RBC, other than nucleus, it has membrane, centrioles, vacuoles, and
Yes. Other than nucleus, it has everything. But the point is, if it does not have nucleus, it will never, so there will never be a mRNA coming out of the nucleus, right? DNA will not make mRNA, mRNA will not make proteins. So you will see that ribosomes are also not present to make proteins there, because they are not making proteins. After they are mature, they have everything that they need, and they have a reserve for 120 days, and they live, and then they die. So you are right. You are very, very logical and correct. Okay. Now, what is different in plants? Yes, Aisha, good. The difference is, I'm marking in red. Plants have a cell wall that animal cells do not have. Plants have a big central vacuole that animal cells do not have. This is a board question. Plants have chloroplasts. Chloroplast is the organelle which contains chlorophyll. Okay. You know what is chlorophyll?
Yes.
Yes. What is it? It's a green pigment. Basically, what gives green color to the plants. And this is very, very important for the process of photosynthesis. What does the word photo means? Again, coming to some terminologies here, people.
Light.
Of course, photos always means light. Okay. And synthesis means produce or make. So in the presence of light, plants can produce their own nutrition. That process is called photosynthesis. Is it clear?
yes.
Right. Yes. And for that photosynthesis to happen, you need chlorophyll. Now, chlorophyll is not always green only. I'm just telling you because now at this level in 11th, you need to know this. It will change when you will go to, when we'll come to anatomy and morphology of plants. Remember, I'm going to change my statement regarding chlorophyll. There are 3 different types of chlorophyll. Okay. Majorly 2, A and B, about which we will study. But just remember, chlorophyll is present in chloroplasts. Chloroplast is also like mitochondria, right now. And they have not marked mitochondria in. So plant cells also have mitochondria. Okay. Chloroplasts like mitochondria. Are you writing? Can you both take screenshots? What are you studying through? Your mobile phone or laptops?
Laptop.
Laptop. Aisha?
Laptop.
You can very well take screenshots, right?
Yes.
Yes. I would like you to take the screenshot of this particular thing here. Take a screenshot so that everything that I have marked here, you will remember the discussion. Let me know when you're done taking the screenshot.
Done.
It's done.
Aisha, done. Okay. And now this part. Not now. Let me complete then. So chloroplast, just like mitochondria, has double membrane. It's dual membranous. And it also has its own DNA. Now, why I'm focusing on chloroplast and mitochondria? Because later on, I'll tell you something, probably in the next class, where again you will, react that emoticon, like, oh, like this. some interesting things. So just remember that mitochondria and chloroplasts are special organelles. Okay, so this is mitochondria in animals. Mitochondria is present. Okay. Yes, so take a screenshot now.
Done.
Done? Okay, very good. Now let's start writing certain things. So let me dictate. So all this discussion is clear to you? You have any questions? No? Okay. So write down. I'll give you few things. I'll not dictate because I think we have discussed it enough so that you can take it as a homework. You have to write a paragraph, like, and that paragraph should not be like a story, very dense, tightly packed sentences. Make bullet points. Okay, so you have to write paragraph on prokaryotic cells characteristics, which you know. Okay, and then eukaryotic cells characteristics. So in the last class, I asked Iram to draw. Now I'm asking you to write. You understand, Iram?
Hmm.
And one thing that I want you, both of you, to focus on when you are doing this is nucleus or genetic material. These things should be in your points. Second thing, I'll teach you after you come with this homework done. Ribosomes. Let me give you one thing to just prime you and tickle your curiosity. I told you that ribosomes are present both in prokaryotes and eukaryotes, right?
Yes.
But I did not tell you that the ribosomes are not same in prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Now figure out what do I mean by this. Okay. So when you are making this, when you're writing this paragraph, keep into consideration that you have to include nucleus, genetic material, ribosomes specifically. Okay. Written the homework.
Yes, done.
Okay. So after the cell membrane is done, let me come to cell wall now. So I will take cell wall today as the last topic, because if I start something else, I'll not be able to finish it. So write down cell wall. Let's understand this in detail today. Now write down about cell wall. It is cell wall is mostly a non-living rigid structure. Cell wall is mostly a non-living. When I say non-living rigid, I mean it is not interacting with the environment. It is not taking some decisions or deciding certain things. It is just there standing like a wall. Okay, like it's not dynamic. Cell membrane is very, very dynamic. Okay, so it is a non-living rigid structure that forms the outermost covering. That forms the outermost covering over the plasma membrane. Over the plasma membrane in fungi and plants. In fungi and plants. So in the characteristics are, it gives shape to the cell. That's why fungi and plants, they cannot have all different types of cells which are different in their shapes. So they have similar type of cells. So it provides, or it gives shape to the cell. And second, it protects the cell. It protects the cell from mechanical injury. From mechanical injury. And also from infections. That's why you will see animals are more susceptible to infections. Plants are not, like, they are very, very robust. They can stand a lot of, they have a tolerance towards infections. Okay, they also get infected. There are many viruses and bacteria that only infect the plants, but that's there. But they get some protection due to cell wall, of course. Now, there are many biomolecules that, so this is a neat question. I'll write it with different ink. So write down. The question was, which of the following is not a part of cell wall in the living systems? So in living organisms, as I've already told you, three things: peptidoglycan, chitin, and cellulose. Apart from these, there are other substances that can be present in a cell of fungi or a algae. So write down. Cell walls in the living world, cell walls in the living world are made up of cellulose, okay, galactans. You have to just remember galactans, mannans. These are all basically calcium carbonate. Some cell walls have calcium carbonate. You know, calcium carbonate is what our bones are made up of. You know that? Calcium and phosphorus are the major components of our bone. So if some organism's cell wall has calcium carbonate in any proportion in it, that cell wall is going to be one hell of a rigid cell wall, right? And when you go back today, find out which organism has calcium carbonate in the cell wall. It's very interesting. You know it already, but you have never thought about it. So the moment you will find it on... Yes, Aisha?
Could you repeat the question?
The question is, which organism have calcium carbonate in their cell wall? Okay. The answer is interesting. So if I ask you, probably you will not be able to answer because it will not come to your mind. But when you will figure it out, you will know, oh, yes, makes sense. You must be knowing that organism. So calcium carbonate, and sometimes it has pectins in some systems, chitin in fungi, and some proteins. Cell walls never have, apart from this, anything that is in the option is not present in cell wall. Okay. yes, one more thing I forgot to tell you above. Plasmodesmata. I was keeping it for the end. Plasmodesmata is also something which is not present in animal cell, because plasmodesmata is a physical hole connection between two adjacent cell walls. You understand? So it is present in plant because plants have cell wall, right? This is one cell wall. This is other cell wall, very rigid. Inside the cell wall, there is this is the cell membrane. Okay. Now, cell membrane we know is very dynamic. That's not the problem. The problem is if something is present inside this cell, it can go till here, but how can it cross cell wall? That's not possible, right? So for that, cell wall have certain holes at specific places, which allow the exchange of certain things between two different cells, two adjacent cells. So that hole in that cell wall is only present in plants because plants only have cell wall. Animals do not have cell. Make sense? Aisha, Neeram?
Yes.
Okay. So when you will go back today, I want you to read chapter 8 till, let me see, till where? Complete. Okay. Because in next class, I will go to individual organelles and we will discuss all the organelles and we'll try to finish the chapter as soon as we can, because cell cycle and cell division has to be started. So will you do this, Aisha and Neerav? Taking today's discussion and class as foundation, just read from NCERT the chapter. If you find anything which is difficult to understand, make notes, and in the next class we'll do that. Okay, Neerav, Aisha? Yep. And in the next class, Aisha, would you like to give a recap before we begin? For that, you need to revise whatever you have noted down today. So your recap will start from prokaryotic, eukaryotic, plant cell, animal cell only. Okay. So I'll see you on Wednesday, both of you. Bye-bye. Good night. Take care.
Sir,
Yes, Aisha.
do send me the recordings of the last class because I need to make those notes.
Yes, notes as well. Yeah. So do you get messages regarding the links from a number that's Learnivio's official number?
Yes.
Just send a message there, and they will, it will come to me. They will reach back to me, and you will get the links there. Okay. Just say the first class. So because this is the second class, so you just have to say the first class for 11th. Okay. Rahul, like just write my name, Rahul Biology 11th class. You need the lecture link. So they'll send you. Okay, Aisha, Neerav. So see you in the next class.
Okay,
Take care.
sir.